Call the meeting to order. Ask for a roll call.
Blunier.
Here.
Leach.
Here.
Lehman.
Here.
Menold.
Here.
Newman.
Here.
Parrott.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Ask you to join me in Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
There is no public hearing or presentations or special reports, but I would like to comment on, I had comments from several citizens throughout the weekend, words of encouragement and thanks to the Board of Trustees and to the mayor for the decision we made on the gas. They really do appreciate it. They know it wasn't easy, so I thought I should relate to it because they almost all of them were really appreciative of what the board did. And the other thing is, we made another right decision. If you've been out by Morton Rentals' new building on Harding Road, they're building a lake now. It's probably 15, 20 foot deep, and all that dirt they're digging out is going right down the street to Lehman's apartments. So we're not hauling that dirt all the way through town on our city streets, and they're kind of working hand in hand, so that's going to help development on both pieces. But it's going to be a nice, huge lake there. So not what they're going to do with it. All I know is they'll probably spend some money and do something with it here. So another opportunity for Morton. Public comments. You have anything tonight?
Good evening, everyone. Leanne Brown with the Morton Chamber of Commerce and Economic Development Council. Just a couple updates. Good news as things continue to move forward and places are opening up and vaccines are rolling out. We did talk to the state regarding carnival permits. So this was one iffy area for our festival. We get a state permit from the state for the carnival specifically. They come on site to inspect all the rides, and they gave us the go-ahead that they will be able to travel and issue permits. And corresponding with the Tazewell County Health Department, they feel very confident and comfortable with us hosting festival at a much more normal full capacity come September. So we're underway with sticking with Plan A this year versus Plan whatever we were on last year. So good news with that for our 55th Pumpkin Festival, pumpkins, tailgates, and traditions. And speaking of that, being the pumpkin capital of the world, we surfaced on the radar of a film producer. I think I mentioned this before, Candace Kane out of the Hamptons, and she's planning a visit here in April to our community to really see Morton firsthand, work with some businesses. We connected her with Libby's and many other businesses that are doing some product spotlight. She's changing the names of some characters to really showcase our Morton community, and the video or the movie will be truly produced here in Morton. So we look forward to hosting her and continue to unfold our Peter, the Great American Pumpkin Bake-Off movie. More details to come on that. And didn't feel like it today, but we've had spring weather lately, so mark your calendars for our golf outing Friday, May 7th. All the proceeds to this go to fund our endowment funds, Project Pumpkin, and our festival volunteer give back. And then save the date. Virtually, we will host our forecast breakfast, hear from the leaders throughout our community for updates on April 15th, which will either be tax day or probably not. So April 15th, forecast breakfast, save the date for that. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. The consent agenda tonight is the approval of the minutes, the regular meeting March 1st, 2021, and the approval of the bills. If we could have a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any questions? Call the roll.
Blunier.
Yes.
Leach.
Yes.
Lehman.
Yes.
Menold.
Yes.
Newman.
Yes.
Parrott.
Yes.
Motion passes.
I have three things tonight. The first is the ordinance 21 35, ordinance making amendments regarding hours of service on Sundays for liquor license to Chapter 8 of Title 3 of the Morton Municipal Code. If we could have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
And this here, I believe, changes the time on Sundays to 10 o'clock instead of noon, similar to the other communities surrounding us.
I guess, real quick, Your Honor, is it, so there's some like that were moved, it looks like, was everything moved forward or back? I mean, there's some like Class A, for example. It was 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. Now it's 10 a.m. to 11 p.m. Is that just to mimic other surrounding communities, or will it be a purpose to change it 1 hour?
To get it, most of them are at 10 a.m. starting. So we're trying
The 9
to,
a.m. was during the week. On Sundays, it was noon, and it's moving back to 10,
okay.
earlier to 10.
So it's restricting them a little bit more, I guess.
No, it's expanding their hours.
9 a.m. to 11 p.m.
The 9 a.m. is during the week. Then there was a separate portion that said on Sundays was noon to 11.
Oh, I see. My apologies. I didn't know I missed that. Thank you.
It's kind of confusing how it's written.
Any other questions? Call the roll.
Leach.
Yes.
Lehman.
Yes.
Mennel.
Yes.
Newman.
Yes.
Parrot.
Yes.
Blunier.
Yes.
Motion passes.
The second item is ordinance 2136, an ordinance making amendments regarding scanning of alcohol to Chapter 8 of Title 3 of the Morton Municipal Code. Could I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
And this one is, council, you might have to explain to them better than me how we're doing that.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. Your current code provisions prohibit self-checkout of alcohol at grocery stores. The proposed ordinance 21-36 would make amendments to permit self-checkout of alcohol as long as the terminal is monitored and overseen by someone at least 21 years of age. The terminal has to be programmed to refuse the sale outside of permitted hours, and the employee must ID check and punch in approval of the transaction before the self-check terminal will complete the sale.
So basically, it's the same procedures as if you go through the full checkout. It would just allow it to be done in the self-checkout lanes.
Is this consistent with other communities allowing the self-checkout?
I believe so.
Yes, it is.
They've been requesting this for some time.
The question I have, Your Honor, is, I mean, I've watched various YouTube videos, I've read articles about how to tell people how to scam the grocery store by using alternate barcodes. Famous one is using the barcode for a banana. It weighs it, you get charged by the pound. What is going to call somebody to the attention that you have, if somebody were to do that, what's going to call somebody to their attention that you're getting scammed on this, and not only getting scammed, but we could be selling alcohol to a minor? I mean, what I've read is that people are able to use the barcode for fruit and produce, and they just put that, they scan that code in, and then they can lay a $50 stake on the thing, and it weighs it, because you have to weigh the bananas. It weighs it, and then it charges, you know, the rate for the banana. So I look at it and say, if we have something that we would like to insure, how are we going to do it, especially when they only have one person monitoring, where there could be 6 or 8 scanners going at a time? This one bothers me a lot, personally.
I haven't ever heard that one, so I'm not quite sure how to answer that.
The biggest problem that we ran into, the self-checkouts that gets reported to the police, is the one where they pretend to scan it across.
Right.
So it looks like on camera that they're actually scanning it when it doesn't, you know, actually ring up.
Right.
They are pretty good about catching those, because there's usually an audible beep that, you know, signals to them that it was good to go. Plus, they do have cameras that are directly over each point of sale. And I know it's one person trying to watch 6 different locations, but they have been pretty successful at catching them doing that. I've not heard of the other, one where they try to use the wrong barcode. We have had situations where they've, necessarily taken tags off of certain items, especially when it comes to baby items. If there's something that's on sale, they'll pretend that it's the sale tag when it's not. But, the way I see that is it's kind of on the business to make sure that they monitor that. I mean, that's their responsibility for.
And I understand that on normal food product, but if you get scammed and sold alcohol to a minor, isn't that what we're trying to prevent? So I guess I look at it and say, I think they should continue to have to go through where a human checks them out. That's my opinion. I'm not for this.
How do you feel about this yourself?
I personally don't have an issue with it. Again, from my experience in my career, people are going to steal it or they're not. That's kind of how people are very creative when they want to be when it comes to creating crime. So we've not had any issues with it to this point as far as people just walking out with alcohol or anything like that. Personally, I don't. I mean, to me, again, it's on Walmart to make sure that they are aggressive in the way that they observe the checkout. And I don't even know if it's Walmart that wants to do it. I think it's more Kroger, if I'm not mistaken, that has been pushing this for a while. But my personal, I don't necessarily have an issue with it. But again, it falls on them policing it. I mean, they're going to have to keep an eye on it. I myself I have 2 kids that live out of state that both of the locations they've been at, they do the self-checkout. It rings up, it immediately locks up the machine. You can't do anything. You can't even ring up another item until the person who's in that area comes over, physically identifies you. They have to put in their own employee code in order to unlock the machine, and then it proceeds forward. So again, my feeling on it is if somebody's going to steal it, it doesn't matter kind of how the setup is, they're going to try and steal it. That's just kind of what we see in law enforcement.
Right, and the thought is that they're not actually stealing it per se because they're paying for something. So if you can walk out with a $50 steak for the price of 2 bananas, I realize you've stolen something, but if you can walk out of the store with a 6-pack and pay for 2 bananas instead, that's the real problem I have, is that I realize the store is responsible for their own pilferage going on, but it's what if alcohol is able to be scammed through the system because you ran a barcode over it, it beeps, and then you put it down on the where the bags are, where you're supposed to bag them. There's a scale right there, so it knows what it's supposed to be. But if it's fruit or produce, it doesn't know how much you bought. So then when you put it down, it weighs it and charges you per pound whatever the bananas or fruit or produce that you got. So you still have scanned something, it beeps, but now you get to walk out the store with alcohol. That's my concern.
Trustee Leach?
Yes.
What is the difference if someone was going to steal alcohol? That was their purpose. The minors plan on stealing alcohol before this ordinance change or after this ordinance change? What would be the difference? They're just trying to steal it.
Yeah, it's not the stealing that is what bothers me. It's that if they figure out how to scam the system, they can go to the store and do this on a regular basis. It's not the theft that is bothering me. It's the minors having the opportunity to be able to get alcohol to drink.
My question, I guess, right where I was going with that is, I don't see how that's different from what they could do right at this moment. Because they're self-checkout right now, so if someone's going to plan on rigging the system to steal alcohol, not to steal, or whether the purpose is because they're underage. I guess my question more or less is, why would this ordinance change that? Because before they would do, if that's their purpose, then they could do that right now too.
Well, if you're walking up there with objects, you have to put them in the bag. So if you put in 2 bananas but also a 6-pack, it's going to say, there's too much here. So I guess that's my thought. And really, my biggest issue is what if there's a way for them to figure out how to scam the system? What is wrong with asking them to go through checkout?
I guess what I keep mentioning, and I apologize, I don't mean to belabor the point, but I guess I feel like there would be no difference now if they're able to figure that how to scam the system. There'd be no difference before or after this ordinance change because they're hiding the alcohol or the item, no matter what.
Let me say it a different way. Because you're walking into the self-checkout with alcohol, where now you're not allowed to go in there with alcohol. You have to go through checkout.
But isn't
My question to the chief is, all alcohol in self-checkout has to be approved by the monitoring person with an ID.
Absolutely, yes. It doesn't matter how old you are. As soon as you scan it, it will immediately lock up the system, and then they have to come over physically, the person that the employee does and check.
Thank you.
So I'm comfortable with the fact that the system shuts down until it's approved by the person monitoring. So that answers my questions. Your point is very important, but my point was that I mean, I didn't know that, and so I'm comfortable with that.
And the ordinance is written that,
Exactly that way.
and the chief will have to check them all before they'll be allowed to do this, so.
What's the accountability or the consequences to the individual who's monitoring the 6 checkouts and finds somebody who is trying to?
Depends on intent. Obviously, it refers to legal here, but you would have to prove that their intent was to allow them to be in possession of underage. If somebody's just merely monitoring the station, I can't think of anything offhand. I mean, obviously they would be in trouble with employee, but there wouldn't be any contributing charge or anything like that unless you could prove that their intent was to allow the minor to have it. Now, could you possibly push that with an investigation that they're on purpose neglecting their job, knowing that they're a minor potentially, but I would still probably view that as something more that the store would want to enforce. Obviously, like Mr. Mick said, when we go to set this up, we will do an inspection on the store. They're going to be advised at that time, this is your responsibility to police this. And I think it helps too with the ordinance being written that, you're not going to have a 16-year-old running that register now. It's going to have to be somebody who's over 21, just like it is if they were to go through the regular check. So they can't be rung up now even by somebody who's under 21. So hopefully that will eliminate some of that issue. Now, we still run into that with cigarettes. Occasionally we, have situations where we do checks just to make sure that they're compliant with checking for IDs on cigarettes, at the gas station. So I would envision, we could definitely do a check with the alcohol as well to make sure that it's in compliance as well. So.
Any other comments? Call the roll.
Lehman,
Yes.
Menold,
Yes.
Newman,
Yes.
Parrot,
Yes.
Blunier,
Yes.
Leach.
No.
Motion passes.
The last item I have is ordinance 2137, an ordinance extending temporary regulations for outdoor dining and drinking. If we could have a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
I'll ask the council to explain it a little bit.
This ordinance represents an extension of your prior enlargement of outdoor, of the opportunity for license holders to obtain outdoor drinking licenses. We had this in place last year with the weather warming up. The office has received inquiries from businesses participated last year about the availability of these outdoor drinking areas for this year. So the ordinance proposes to extend what was an ordinance with prior expiration date out further so that options available this year as well.
Any questions?
Wasn't that prior ordinance for kind of due to COVID-19, trying to give some, okay. And so we decided it worked out well, so we're going to extend it. Okay. I think that's good.
They're still under the same restrictions as they were last year, just, well, later on in the year, last year. So this is just to allow the greater capacity outside so that they can sell more, you know, because they can't seat as many people inside.
Okay.
Any other questions? Call the roll.
Mennel.
Yes.
Newman.
Yes.
Parrot.
Yes.
Blunier.
Yes.
Leach.
Yes.
Lehman.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Village clerk.
Nothing tonight, Your Honor.
Village administrator.
I have a couple items tonight, Your Honor. The first of which I just want to do a preliminary presentation on our budget for the fiscal year 22, which begins May 1st, 21, runs through April 30th, 22. Just as an overview, currently this budget is budgeted to have a deficit of all funds activity of over $6 million. The majority of that is caused by the expenditures for the capital outlay of the water treatment plant, which is, we are budgeting $7.6 million of that to occur in this current year. The general fund is set to have a deficit of not quite $300,000. The majority of the capital outlay in the general fund, other than our normal street maintenance, is to purchase a new fire engine for approximately $685,000. That existing fire engine that we're replacing, the frame has rusted to the point that the mechanic is requesting that we replace it rather than continue to use it. And then an additional $193,500 is budgeted for mainly the hardware purchases for the new radio system that the ETSB is looking at putting into place within the next year. And then there's other changes to it, but I just wanted to present it tonight. I wanted to get any questions that you have on it, and then we can look for a final presentation and approval at the next meeting.
Does anyone have any comments?
Just one question. The preliminary budget, as we received it, did that include the recent action on the gas fund, well, that we took?
It's,
Does it reflect, I guess, the ending balance in the gas fund?
yes, yes it does.
It does reflect that, okay.
And it's shown in the projected actuals for this current fiscal year that ends April 30th. It's shown as an expense in that, on the gas fund.
Yeah, that 10.6 million estimated
Right,
that does take into that
Right.
account, that action, okay.
the mayor and I had to argue on that number.
And I won.
And he was right, so I had to change it.
I hear that a lot.
I had it smaller and he,
That's good to know.
Also, we have to remember the money we're spending on the water treatment plant is an asset. We're spending it, but it'll be an asset on the books of the city at 11 million, so it's not like we're wasting the money.
correct.
We're just improving it.
And it's money we've saved up for that project.
Yeah, I mean, it's money that we saved, it's in reserves, we're using it now, so, yeah, on this year, this previous year and this year, it shows as a deficit, but again, it was meant to be.
Right. So, any other comments on that? Okay, Julie?
After you've had a chance to digest it, if you have any questions, just give me a call. Well, if you see anything that needs changed, we will probably be making a few minor changes to what's brought as a final budget. And then, of course, we'll do the appropriations in July. So.
Thank you.
The next item I have is a request to transfer funds from the gas reserve fund to the gas operating fund. We need to transfer approximately $3 million out of the gas reserve fund to actually pay the bill for the gas purchases for February's usage. The existing balance in the gas operating fund would be sufficient to pay the bill, but it would wipe the fund completely out. So we need to transfer the money out of the reserve fund to pay for that bill.
So could we have a motion?
Yeah.
I move to approve that.
Second.
And that's 3 million?
3 million, yes.
Okay. Any other questions? Call the roll.
Newman.
Yes.
Parrot.
Yes.
Blunier.
Yes.
Leach.
Yes.
Lehman.
Yes.
Mennel.
Yes.
Motion passes.
And the last item I have is a recommendation from the Business District Commission for a building improvement grant. It's for Johnson's Floral at 313 North Morton Avenue. Their total project cost is estimated to be $20,651, of which they could get a grant of $10,000. And they are looking to replace windows on both floors of the building.
Could we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Any question? Call the roll.
Parrot.
Yes.
Blunier.
Yes.
Leach.
Yes.
Lehman.
Yes.
Mennel.
Yes.
Newman.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Chief of Police,
Nothing tonight, Your Honor.
Corporation Counsel,
Nothing tonight, Your Honor.
Director of Public Works.
Several items tonight, Your Honor. First, item A in front of you, this is Resolution 24-21. This is an IDOT resolution appropriating motor fuel tax funds for our annual overlay project.
So could we have a motion?
Move to approve.
I'll second that.
So this is in the budget, so I do want to preface that, but this would be to appropriate $200,000 towards the seal coating program. And in your packets, I had a map in there, and then also in your budget, there's a list, and this would include a portion of Moseyman from Jefferson back to Jackson along North Morton, Bradley, Madison, Peoria area, and then Tennessee. So with that, I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Any comments? Call the roll.
Blunier.
Yes.
Leach.
Yes.
Lehman.
Yes.
Mennel.
Yes.
Newman.
Yes.
Parrot.
Yes.
Motion passes.
I would like to jump down to item C next, since it goes hand in hand with this. I'd like to request permission to request bids for the annual 2021 overlay program. And I don't think this needs a vote per se. So if I could just explain that also. It's in your budget too, but we would like to go out for bid here fairly soon so that we can get going by May. And this would be general funds, and the overlay portions would be Nebraska from Jackson to Maine, East Ashland from the end of the concrete section by the Holiday Inn all the way around to Commerce, or out about the location of G&D's driveway. And then 3rd Avenue, of which I've got some stuff with item E and F that would probably go hand in hand with this too, but that would be 3rd Avenue from Harrison to Maine.
Any comments? All right.
All right. I'll move on to item B. This is Resolution 25-21. I'd like to ask for acceptance of engineering services agreement with Hanson Professional Services for the Detroit Avenue resurfacing project.
If we could have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Okay, this would be the engineering agreement with Hanson for the project that was approved, a funding resolution that was approved back October 19th of 2020. And this would be the project that is going to receive $720,000 in federal STBG funds. And basically, this would be the end of the previous improvements. Actually in front of Dartec, or close to Casey's there, the 5-lane section, and this would go all the way to Main Street. Just keep in mind this has to follow all the federal guidelines. So in your budget again, if you look at the capital projects sheet, this project construction would be IDOT FY24, so July of 2023. So what I would like to do, if you guys approve this tonight, would be in the budget, Phase 1 engineering, complete that in our FY22. Complete Phase 2, which would be plans, in our FY23 to set up for construction in FY24. Again, this would be milling, resurfacing, extends a bike trail 10-foot wide along the west side, all the way to Detroit and Perchwood, improvement of the signals there to provide pedestrian access, ADA on the sidewalks from Birchwood to Maine. And then also we would set things up also. At this point, it's not ready for 5 lanes. I will say I've worked with the mayor quite a bit on the west side of Detroit. We will look at that as far as traffic impact studies on the potential need for 5 lanes in the future if it's needed. Well, at least everything will be designed to make sure everything fits in the future. It could be 10 years, 15 years, who knows, at such time that development starts along the stuff on the west side of Detroit. So with that, I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Primarily, that would be the sidewalk, the trail, whatever we call that.
Exactly.
Multi-use path.
Yes, so we would put that multi-use path back off the road so that it ties in. We've got the right-of-way. It would allow us to do that and have a larger section of green space now, but we want to make sure it fits later too. So there might have to be some interim drainage improvements, stuff like that, to make sure everything fits in the future. But we'll go 3 lanes as long as we possibly can, would be my intent.
In FY '24, the state FY, so you would plan on construction beginning around July? Or sure?
I think that would be the plan if we could, yes. The goals would be to start in July, so hopefully a May type letting is my hope at this point. To prepare for, I mean, I always thought our fiscal years were tough, but I think IDOT's are worse, where they start, in the middle of July. But I don't think we want to push it to 24 necessarily.
To calendar year '24?
Calendar year
right.
24, yeah.
Any other questions or comments? Call the roll.
Leach.
Yes.
Lehman.
Yes.
Mennel.
Yes.
Newman.
Yes.
Parrot.
Yes.
Blunier.
Yes.
Motion passes.
I would like to announce and make sure you guys are good with it too. The item D, this is the spring 2021 yard waste disposal program that we would like to set up and start Monday, April 5th after Easter to Sunday, May 2nd, and this would be from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. daily. So unless you guys have some other dates in mind, we would like to proceed and start publicizing this, put it on the TV, the website, so that everybody's aware. We'll start getting phone calls here real soon.
All right.
All
Go
right,
ahead.
hearing none, we'll proceed. Item E and F, I'll start with E. This is part of the junior high project. I'd like to ask for acceptance of change order number 2. This does work at the West and East Jackson Street entrance and the 2nd Avenue entrances at the school. And this is part of the Morton Junior High project in the amount of $49,234.05. And this would be, we're basically paying the contractor, so we're approving this kind of a formality since we'll be expending funds. They will reimburse us, and they have already approved this on their end.
I move to approve.
Second.
Any other comments?
I did put a plan on some of your desks. I don't know if you had a chance to see it, but basically the front, those brick knee walls, those are coming down. I think they were excited by all the work that we did and wanted to fix kind of some areas that just looked old, some ADA issues, stuff like that, and they were excited and came to me and wanted to clean that up as a part of this project. So we got some good prices from NAP. We're thankful that NAP is willing to honor their bid prices. And I think they'll be proceeding with this. I think they started working on a few things today, but they'll proceed this week, and you'll start seeing those improvements.
All right, any comments? Call the roll.
Lehman.
Yes.
Mennel.
Yes.
Newman.
Yes.
Parrot.
Yes.
Blunier.
Yes.
Leach.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Lastly is item F. I'd like to ask for acceptance of change order number 3. This is additional North 3rd Avenue miscellaneous concrete work from Harrison to North Main, mainly on the east side, as part of the Morton Junior High project in the amount of $136,486.85. And I would like to preface this is included in the FY22 budget in the miscellaneous concrete work, not in the line item that shows, 2nd, 3rd. It would be in the next line item down as a part of that, and would kind of pave the way for the overlay.
No pun intended.
Yeah, exactly. My engineer language.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Any other comments? Call the roll.
Mennel.
Yes.
Newman.
Yes.
Parrot.
Yes.
Blunier.
Yes.
Leach.
Yes.
Lehman.
Yes.
Motion passes.
That's all I have tonight, Your Honor.
All right. Zoning and code enforcement.
I have several items tonight, Your Honor. The first item is item A, an ordinance 21-38. It's an ordinance making amendments regarding ADA parking spaces required for off-street parking and unloading to Title 10 of the Morton Municipal Code.
We could have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Any other comment you'd like to make on that, Brad?
So this ordinance would just, it would put in our municipal code in the parking requirements that ADA spots are in addition to the minimum requirements.
Any other comments or questions?
If you don't mind me asking, how did this one come about?
Well, we just constantly are trying to review, and this kind of stood out. We had some plans come across for site plan review, and engineers have called it. So there's a little bit of confusion on their end. They see our parking requirements, so they'll provide that, and then we say, well, you still have to provide ADA by law. So it kind of cleans it up on the front end for them, so that they see it, they can plan for it on the front end before they contact us.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Call the roll.
Newman.
Yes.
Parrot.
Yes.
Blunier.
Yes.
Leach.
Yes.
Lehman.
Yes.
Mennel.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Second item tonight, Your Honor, is B, ordinance 21-39, an ordinance making amendments regarding parking spaces for employees in industrial areas to Title 10 of the Morton Municipal Code.
Motion?
So moved.
Second.
So this amendment would change the current requirements of one parking space for every 1.5 employees on the largest shift, including office workers in manufacturing and industrial uses, to one parking space for every one employee on the largest shift, including office workers.
Any questions or
I'd like
comments?
to make a couple comments on that. And Brad, you and I talked before, and I
Yes.
think kind of at the beginning, I didn't think this was a great idea. I'm generally, given my job, I'm generally kind of against gigantic parking lots that don't get used. But after reading through this and kind of simmering it down to its basic, I guess, outlay, is we're requiring them to have parking spaces for the people that need parking spaces. It's really kind of a simplified version of, okay, if you have, and it's on the business to tell us how many people they have that would need a parking space. It's their employees, but, and in the planning commission meeting, it came up, okay, well, what if, a big portion of the employees or salespeople that aren't there on shift. Well, I would say that if you have 100 people and 25 people are salespeople that aren't there, well, then you only have 75 employees that are there at the office that you would need a parking space for. And again, the onus is on the business, which I think, and again, we talked before, I think we are just putting into an ordinance what is something that's already in practice. I think all businesses out there, if you have 100 employees that come that need a parking space, well, then you want to have 100 parking spaces because your employees can't find a place to park. Well, then they're late to work, and that's not good for anybody. And so I don't see this as a bad thing for businesses, or discouraging businesses from coming to town. I think this is something that, and comments were made about the recent business, industrial businesses coming to town. They're already providing one-to-one parking spaces because that's what they need. And in my mind, it's common sense to provide a parking spaces. People don't carpool like maybe they used to. And I think we've talked to a couple businesses that, have tried carpooling, have tried shuttle vans that just don't work or haven't worked in the past. So I think I'm in support of this. Or not, I think I am. I am in support of this.
Yes. Thank you. And if I might add, also in the industrial areas, we do not have on-street parking available.
True.
So therefore, the off-street parking is all that's available for those facilities.
And if I could add,
obviously I've been here 10 years, and I can tell you from experience, and there's been some comments letting them self-regulate. I'm a firm believer, because I've dealt with it, they will park in the grass before they, you know what I mean? So those things happen. We have, I don't want to name names, but I talked to the mayor again today. They will park in the grass. Just keep in mind, this is still a minimum standard, and in site plan review, we're asking them, how many employees do you have? Whereas my goal, really, at the end of the day, is we're pretty much trusting them. What I do is I put that on the plan. And when I put it on the plan, then when there's an issue in the future, where the mayor's come to me on several occasions, on Main Street, I pull out the plans and say, well, this is what they based it on. What's the issue? Did they add another shift? Do they have twice as many employees? At least I have something to go back to say, hey, you're not doing what you said you're going to do. And then we try to really point out to them, really, develop this for the future too. We're dealing with a project even right now, a restaurant that wants to add on, but they want to add on half the size of the building in parking spaces when they had minimum parking. So it's hard for us, and sometimes we're the bad guy, but I truly believe we are also an advocate for the public and the burden that this causes. And we should set minimum standards to alleviate the congestion, especially when there's not on-street parking. So I just want to add those few points that we're dealing with these on a day-to-day basis. And I can assure you, and the one that kind of prompted it, I think it took multiple times of their engineer to even come up with how many employees they have after they've designed the building that maximize the site. So that's where some of these concerns come from. I believe it is an issue, and minimum standards, if there's an issue and they say, hey, this isn't fair, we got too big a parking lot, we're going to come back to you. If they make sense of something, we'll come back to you. I know there's reference to Peoria. I don't think we should compare to Peoria, especially on this issue. There were comments made at the Plan Commission. Always keep in mind that they had a combined sewer overflow issue, and their goal, to my knowledge, to reduce parking and take out minimum standards was because they had to do something drastic. So they had to take parking lot out to reduce, basically the drainage from these pavements. So that's why they have limited standards. They're backed into a corner. We're not. We've done a good job on our combined sewer overflow, so I don't think we have that issue, if that makes sense. So I know there were references to Peoria, and I don't think that's a fair comparison on what they did.
I think one more thing, this is not the village because we want giant parking lots.
No.
There's actually a detriment to us as the village having bigger parking lots. It's more stormwater, in our drains that has to be accounted for. So it's not advantageous for us to have big parking lots. Our issue is we don't want the burden on the public streets, which there is no public streets. We don't want people parking in the grass. That's the part that we're trying to address here.
Very well said by all. Any other comments? Call the roll.
Parrot.
Yes.
Blunier.
Yes.
Leach.
Yes.
Lehman.
No.
Mennel.
Yes.
Newman.
Yes.
Motion passes.
My next item tonight, Your Honor, item C, ordinance 21-40, an ordinance making amendments regarding setback requirements for noise-emitting mechanical equipment to Title 10 of the Morton Municipal Code.
If we could have a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
You want to comment, Brad?
Yes, this ordinance amendment would allow for emergency generators to be as close as 6 feet to the side property line. Currently, our ordinance reads you can be no closer than 12 feet with any noise-emitting mechanical equipment. So I've noticed a lot of people, there's more of a desire for these backup generators, emergency generators. Typically, they want to be placed near the gas meter because that's how they are powered by the gas. Well, in a lot of instances, the gas meter is always going to be on the side of the house with less than 12 feet. So in that case, they have the option to put the generator behind the house and run a gas line all the way down the side of their house to the rear. That's a costly thing, and it's a burden to all. The way I look at it, I did a little bit of homework on the noise. So basically there's 3 items that will sit in that side yard that's noise emitting. It'll be a generator, it'll be swimming pool equipment, and it'll be an air conditioner. So those are the 3 items that are the only 3 items I've ever seen. So on the generator, the most common backup generator is the Generac 22 kW. That's the one I typically see come through. It's got a test mode once a week for 10 minutes, and that decibel level is 55. At full operation, it's 67 decibels. To put that into perspective, moderate rainfall is 50 decibels, normal conversation is 60 decibels, and a vacuum sweeper is 70 decibels. Now, these can also be set to run that 10 minutes on a timer anytime. For example, it could be a Monday at 3 p.m., typically when you perceive that noise to be the less of a nuisance. So the way I see it, and speaking with, I think I have Craig's, we spoke about this. We feel like that would be a benefit to the citizens to be able to put that generator in the side yard no closer than 6 feet, which is that utility easement area.
I'm just curious, noise emitting equipment, how is that defined in our ordinance? I mean, because you mentioned, I mean, the only 3 things that we would have are generators, air conditioners, and...
Let's see if there is a definition for. And I'd like to tell you there is one, but there is not a definition for noise emitting equipment.
Okay.
So I mean, there's not a definition for a lot of words in our ordinance. So, I mean, I guess we fall back to Webster if we want to do it that.
And we're mainly in support of this because we're seeing them come after the fact. So, for instance, like homes in Fieldstone, where they've maxed out the setback and they really have no room to put anything. So then they're trying to figure out how to put it in the backyard and all that, which I think we're supportive of that. We're really looking for your feedback here. But in most cases, we felt like this would allow them a little more room in that setback to be able to put a generator in, because more people are putting generators in. You know.
So these could be put in a side yard if we're 6 feet from the property line.
Correct. No closer than 6 feet to the side property
And the
line.
6 feet is kind of mine. That's the part we want you to stay out of. That's the utility easement, so it'd be 12 foot. So I think my guys would have a tough time with me and probably figure out how to get rid of me if we don't keep that clean. You know what I mean? So we'd still like to keep 6 foot on each side clear. If we have to get in and put a service line in or repair something, at least we got 12 foot of clear to be able to do something.
What is the side yard setback on building?
Minimum 7 feet, unless it's in the reduced area, which is 5'3".
On one side. you
On
can
one
do 7,
side.
Or 20%.
Yeah.
And one side 7.
20 foot total.
So there's a lot of places, if they're meeting minimum setback, they're not going to be able to install these anyway.
On that side, correct.
On that
It's
side.
very possible.
Correct.
Yes.
But you could have a 7 and a 13, which would be 20. So even on the 13 side, a generator that's 2 feet wide is going to stick out from the building. They couldn't put it there either.
Right.
So the only nuisance is the exercise cycle. And I make a lot of noise at my house. Mowing the yard, blowing the snow, even shoveling my sidewalk that's, I mean, it's noisy at 5 o'clock in the morning. It makes me wonder if I wake anybody up, But this is just an exercise or in an emergency situation.
Correct. Correct.
And we're seeing more of them come in.
I think I'm impressed with the research that you did and the comparison, which really brought it home for me. And I think you're doing a great thing for the community by reducing the burden on a significant number of people because of the old ordinance. And I have 2 air conditioning units in my house, and they start up. I don't think anything about it, but I think that more people will be able to follow the code, follow the ordinance, be able to have that backup generator, and I don't see it being a real nuisance myself. So good job.
And most of them are on Morton gas, so that's the reliable energy when the electric goes out.
Expensive, but reliable.
Good, that was good, Craig. Any other comments? If not, call the roll.
Blunier,
Yes.
Leach.
Yes.
Lehman.
Yes.
Mennel.
Yes.
Newman.
Yes.
Parrot.
Yes.
Motion passes.
My last item tonight, Your Honor, is item D. It's a zoning amendment, special use petition 21-01.
Could I have a motion?
Second.
So this petition is actually by the Village of Morton. It's requesting zoning change at 420 East Washington Street from B3 to R1 with the special use to be a publicly owned park. This is, for reference, it's across from, well, it's where the old Schultz landscape was, if you recall. So this property was formerly Schultz, then it became, I don't know where it went from there. The last owner was Ameren, so we acquired this property from Ameren. I believe the intent is to rezone it with the special use to be a park and then donate it to the park district. Is that
Yeah, this
correct,
is
Your
the
Honor?
property when they met with us to going down 4th Street. They needed a landing spot with their easements. I told them to buy that. They said we don't buy property. I said, well, you need to buy that and then donate it to Morton. And what are you going to do? We're going to tear it down with business district funds, fix the sidewalk, and then donate it to the park district. So after the passing of this, in a future meeting, we'll donate that to a neighborhood park. So any other comments, questions?
Weren't you behind the whole orchestrating this whole thing from the beginning?
Would I do anything like that?
Yes, you would. All right.
Call the roll.
Leach.
Yes.
Lehman.
Yes.
Mennel.
Yes.
Newman.
Yes.
Parrot.
Yes.
Bloom.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Your Honor, if I could add one more thing that's not on, I just want to let everybody know that the 2020 zoning map revisions, Village of Morton official map, and the 2020 land use map are all updated on the website now.
Good.
That's all I have tonight, Your Honor.
Thank you. Village trustees. Trustee Leach.
Yes, Your Honor, I have one item. I move approval of acceptance of proposal from Sourcewell through Vermeer Midwest out of Goodfield for a new Vactron JTV 800 vacuum excavator in the amount of $259,965.76.
If we could have a motion.
I made the motion. I'm looking
I'll
for a
second
second.
it.
Thanks. So I have a small video that I've asked Brad to show. Just if you don't know what a vacuum excavator is.
Are you ready?
Yep.
Vacuum excavation is digging by using vacuum to break apart material with high pressure water or air. This method of excavation is commonly referred to as soft dig and accepted as being safer than hand digging within the tolerance zone around underground utilities. This process allows for workers on site to stay safe on the surface. This practice can eliminate accidental line damage and trench cave-ins. This is the best method of identifying the accurate depth of a utility. With vacuum excavation, companies have an alternative to hand digging and a safer way to expose utilities with both hydro and air or dry excavation. Hydro excavation is the process of safely uncovering underground utilities utilizing high pressure water along with high-speed vacuum. Hydro excavation is faster than air excavation and is considered the most efficient type of vacuum excavation. Hydro excavation does not allow for the reuse of the spoil material for refilling the hole. Air or dry excavation is the process of using compressed air to disturb the Earth's soil, which is then vacuumed up into a debris tank. Air excavation can be slower than hydro excavation, but it does allow the debris to be used back into the hole. Vacuum excavation is less evasive than traditional methods of digging. It also offers lower cost with a higher level of precision, with less surface restoration needed.
Okay, so as you saw, the thought of safety when working around utilities, whether it's our utilities or somebody else's, when you use a backhoe, you have a problem of Actually, you may know where it's at, you may not know its exact depth. This allows us then to work safer around those utilities. It can also be used for other things. You can go online and look at other things that it does, but we'd like to buy this. The gas department would probably use it about 60%, and the water department would use it the other 40%.
Any other comments?
A quick question. Is this on a trailer or is this the truck?
I'm sorry, it's a truck. The
Okay.
JTV is the jetter truck vac.
Okay.
And it has a 800-gallon waste tank. I think it's 600 gallons of water to use. It has its own compressor for the water coming out. It'd be about 3,000 psi. And if you use the water to dig, then we have to dump that, and we would dump it out at the 4th Street sewer plant area.
My question is, with our large expense and unforeseen costs that we recently just had with the gas fund, with the polar vortex, do you feel that this is something that's still that's necessary? I guess it may be redundant, but why, I guess, would this be necessary now instead of waiting for later, I guess, is a better question.
Yeah, the other part of that, and I appreciate the question, the other part is if we needed it 2 years ago and didn't buy it and always put it off, when do you actually pull the trigger and buy it? So at this stage, I do think that it's necessary, especially because of what we have to deal with as we work with our own utilities and other utilities within the village of Morton. And if you notice, you probably can get by with, I would think, less manpower. It will have a self-boom on it, so that that suction hose, one guy could literally operate. If you watch enough of these videos, you see one guy can actually operate that by himself because he has the boom. He has a foot operator or a handheld unit to lift the boom and drop it. So there would be times maybe that one person's doing it, but also you don't have the need for the truck and the trailer to bring out the backhoe to do the work. I think it would actually take less men and less equipment to use this for excavation. Is it a toy? When you first look at it, you think, do we really need that? But there are areas, especially, if you look around the junior high, what we're putting in there, it's interesting to see the amount of utilities that are underground, and it's because of that we may not have the best depth range to know where they're at. So it does seem like a safer item for us to use than to use a backhoe. And we might actually rely on this more than we would for a backhoe anyway. So I do think it's an item we should purchase now.
Thank you, Trustee Leach. Craig, I guess a couple of questions. Has there been some safety, maybe not concerns, but maybe some issues in the past to note where someone got hurt, digging, even as recent?
Sure. I don't know that my guys who got injured, they're very safe at what they do. I would say the last one was out on Veterans, where there was an unmarked electrical, and the guys drilled into that. Obviously, there's some safety mechanisms on the machine, but my guys were really nervous about that. Jeremy Cook was outside the hole, very close. So I would say every day our guys are working, there's death and danger around them. So this is something that will help be with them, at all times. We have used the Vector truck at the wastewater, but there's a coordination issue, and that can only be used by those guys. That's a different level than this. So all guys will be able to use this. It's time. If you're in the utility business and you don't have one of these, then you're in the wrong business, and you'll probably be out of business soon. So yeah, I think safety's number one for sure.
And
Go ahead.
I would say last question, I guess, with that, tough to put a price on safety, but I guess from the other aspect, just the cost aspect, is it, like Trustee Leach mentioned, there's some cost savings? Do you feel like there's enough cost savings that maybe in the future, even put aside the safety aspect, that there might be some, the funds might be able to be recouped?
Yeah, I mean, we've got reserve funds, so I appreciate your comments, but I would hate to put something off. I mean, I know you're saying in the future, but I would hate to sacrifice what we just did to put off safety. We have been discussing this for several years, and I think now is the time. I appreciate you mentioning the junior high, and Steve's spent a lot of time with on the gas department, looking at things. But remember, we drilled in across Jackson for Ameren. We drilled across 3rd Street for Ameren. So I think sometimes people forget that we're as good as anybody else in the utility business. No other community really does what we're doing around here. So yeah, I mean, there's always savings. I don't want to get into. I think Paul Ullman and Scott Stidman. I think our budget is a testament to that. The $13 million that we were able to come from is a direct result of our staff and working with a very small staff. I mean, we're a 5-person gas company and the other 5 cross-trained, so I'm not sure anybody can do that. So these, unfortunately, and I really appreciate you guys, past boards, to give us the tools to not have to add people to be able to be more efficient with what we do. So I think that's what this is. Hopefully I answered your question. We will save where we can save, and I think we've proven that. And in my 10 years here, I'm not saying it's a direct relation to me, but Scott Stidman and Paul Ullman treat this like their checkbook, and I think the budget shows that. So
Thanks, Greg.
Yep.
Yeah, I'd like to comment that what I traditionally call potholing.
Yep.
Generally, for us using the Vector, which is a very expensive piece of equipment, not the best piece of equipment to be doing that kind of work, but that's what most communities, municipalities had to work with. But potholing, excavating in this manner is the most efficient way to locate utilities when you're doing any underground work. And the right-of-ways are becoming more and more crowded. I mean, you just drive by, you see you see all kinds of cable being put underground every day in this community and every community. They're all over the place, and it's the point now where anytime you need to do anything to get in underground, you've got to locate utilities, and this is the most efficient way to do it. Using a backhoe, digging by hand is not. I mean, that just doesn't cut it. Yeah. Actually, it does cut it. That's the problem. Sure. And you really get yourself in trouble. I mean, whenever we're excavating, we're taking on a big liability. Huge. When we're working around other utilities. So we're not going to see a direct savings where you can show it on bottom line, but boy, anytime you can avoid hitting another utility, you're saving money.
Yeah.
Not only a safety aspect, you're saving money avoiding putting that utility out of service and the liability that it does create if we created the problem.
And that goes hand in hand with our directional drilling capabilities too.
Yeah.
I mean, people got to realize we're directional drilling, how much water main and gas main every year. So to be able to do that, there's a lot of the, vacuum excavating that we need to do.
And I believe we're probably the only municipality, certainly of this size, that's doing directional drilling of water main and gas main. And again, saving a lot of money in the process of doing that.
Yeah.
So this is an expenditure that is really justified. Pay dividends down the road.
Yeah.
And it is. It's the way of doing business now. With the right of way as crowded as it's getting underground.
I have a question for Trustee Leach regarding this unit. Vermeer has an interest in selling the units, so they show it as an answer to a lot of things, and I understand that. And I believe there will be less damage to utilities if it's used, and potentially less injuries, physical and with the utilities themselves if they hit electric. Did they provide any statistics with regards to how much time does it save, how much money could it save over time to develop interest in a $500,000 or $250,000 machine?
I didn't see anything that they said. I've watched so many Vactron videos. I didn't see that. Okay. But what Trustee Newman said, they say it as well, that it's the fastest, safest way to pothole. So from that perspective, it seems to be a well-engineered piece of equipment that is designed to do something that when you have underground utilities, you should have.
I agree, we should have it. I just was hoping maybe they had some statistics over time as what they found with the machines.
I didn't see any.
Okay.
And then the last thing I'd like to say is the mayor and I were, what's the street your shop is on?
David,
David, okay, I couldn't remember that.
right
street.
there in front of Taylor's.
Right. We saw the gas department guys working on gas line, replacing a section of gas line. And there was, I remember the backhoe being there. And when you see the fingers of the backhoe, it just, to me, as scary as you watched what they were doing around the hole. But once they got down to a certain part, they had to do manual digging, from that point. This is just I think one safer but also more efficient way of digging. I did say to Craig that I don't think we would do a whole lot of air excavation because of our heavy soil. It probably would always be water, I would think. But Vactron was started in Florida. So when you see them doing it, they can use air because they're doing it with sand. So there is a difference.
And I would like to add, we're going to use it for a lot of different things too. We're in the obviously directional drilling business. There's a lot of mud when you directional drill, so this will be able to help clean up, keep the hole clean for our guys. Water leaks is another big one. This is a good piece of equipment. When you got a water leak and you're trying to, you're working in water, this will help you able to keep the hole clean. We do put most of our street lights in the concrete poles with the Vector. We don't dig. We basically pothole down. Inlets, cleaning inlets, we'll be able to use it for that. And this one is on a truck as opposed to a trailer. We originally were looking at trailer, but so you should see this quite often because it has a pintle hitch on it, and we'll be hauling it out to the job with our directional drill so that it's there. Obviously, we don't want this thing sitting in a nice building somewhere where it needs to be out working. So we want to make sure it could haul the drill rig.
To piggyback onto the rest of this, if you ever look in the hole where you guys are working, it makes me, and I don't get scared of much, but I've been into enough electrical nicks and stuff that I've done on my own on underground that it just eliminates that whole risk.
Yeah.
And what's the cost when you damage something to do the repair?
And the delay.
If there's no injury.
Right, and the delay.
Yeah, it's just an efficient, and my dad used to say the initial cost will soon be forgotten.
Yeah.
But once you have it, you'll wonder how you ever got along without it. And this is one of those machines that will increase your efficiency so much that.
And I appreciate it. I've been in construction a long time and have been around near deaths, especially with electric. There's something different. The accident that I mentioned to you and my responsibility and you guys' responsibility, there's nothing worse than going out, even when they almost got injured or killed. A lot of these guys I'm in the community with, but when you got to go face one of your guys that was close to near death or injury, that's there's a huge responsibility. So I appreciate this tonight. I think this is why we've looked at it for a couple of years, and I'm like, it's just time. It's time to get it now. And I appreciate it. We'll have this machine for at least 10 years. I'm pretty confident of that. So I appreciate the questions and comments. Appreciate Steve's interest.
Likewise, I've stopped and looked in some of these holes. I'll never forget the hole at the corner of Jackson and Jefferson on Menold property. It was raining, muddy, there's big valves in there, wires going across. I looked in that hole and thought, how in the world did they not hit something? There was so much in there, and then wires, and then doing it in the rain, and the backhoe couldn't see the guy in the hole, how we didn't injure anybody. Then you add the rain, and you gotta refill it, and you could damage stuff by feeling it. We need this machine, especially with all the utilities we got in this community. So I think it's a wise decision.
And again, I think it was mentioned, this is to be paid in the 22 budget.
Yes. Yep. Now, I wanted to come forward now because the earliest I'll get it's July. I think this is Vermeer's next big move in these pieces of equipment. I think they'll get into the bigger vac trucks here soon, but they bought out Vactron, and another company. So yeah, it's hard to get your hand on these machines right now. So if I can get it here soon, I'll pay for it after May 1, but I can get it hopefully in July when we can start using it.
And I think also you said where we're attacking the sewers in the backyard of houses, this could help that. You might explain that just a
Yeah,
little
this
bit?
is a little lower weight than our big Vector. We are going to have to start addressing sanitary sewers, unfortunately, that are in the backyards of some of the state streets. Monumental task, obviously sheds, fences, stuff like that. These we can connect, and Trustee Leach and I discussed, you can connect other hoses up to it and, you know, get a couple 100 feet out and probably do the job on some of these. Obviously, we still may need to drive up there, but this will be handy as we first start investigating what's even in some of these backyards. But we've got quite a few backyard sewers that I would say in the next 5 to 10 years are going to need some serious attention.
So how long can you operate this before you have to dump it? What's the cycle? I know it depends on, but and then is it all slurry, or does it separate? You have a
I mean, it's pretty much landfill stuff right now. We're going to continue to work on that, on how we deal with it. But I mean, I would imagine if for our operation, I would think half a day we'd be good before we have to dump it.
so
if
you
that
can
makes
do
sense.
a job without having
Yeah. Now, a big company that's doing it all day long, that's what they're doing. Yeah, you're probably multiple times a day. The beauty for us is we're working right here in town, so it's not like we have to drive and try to unload it. We've got a spot within several miles to be able to dump it. But we'll continue to work on that. Obviously, anything goes to landfill, we try to manage environmentally, so that obviously we don't have to pay the cost. But we'll continue to look at better ways to deal with this type of material.
So you say landfill, but I thought you said the sewer plant. So
Sewer plant, but not going through the sewer.
Okay,
We
all right.
dump stuff down
Okay.
there, so we'll
All right.
de-water it down there,
I understand.
and then typically it'll get trucked out.
I understand. Thank you.
Any other comments? Call the roll.
Lehman,
Yes.
Mennel,
Yes.
Newman,
Yes.
Parrot,
Yes.
Blunier,
Yes.
Leach.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Any other trustees have anything? If not, if we could have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
A second?
That's fine, I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.